Hey everybody, it's Carrie. Tonight I've been thinking about relenting versus responding. And mostly I'm talking about how women respond to a man. And this has to do with sex or just in their interactions. And I just want to define how I see that. I see it the same way that I see sex. I always use this for an example because it's just so clear to everybody how that works. And so it kind of gives you a little roadmap to tell how the rest of our hearts and minds work. So basically, when a man gives a woman something, whether it's kindness or flowers or a date, she responds to it. She kind of like experiences what he's given her, and then she has a response. And this takes a while because it's like tasting food. It takes a minute to taste it, and then it takes you a minute to think about if you like it or not, or if it's sweet or sour. It just takes a minute to absorb and to hit you, really. So I know that men, they want a genuine reaction from women in bed, on dates. They want women to be real, and this is almost like their number one complaint, you know? Like when I met her, she was so free and she had her own life, and now it just feels like she agrees with everything I say. And you know, they want you to have some structure, but they don't understand what the predicament is for us. We're between a rock and a hard place, and it's kind of like I can give you an example from a relationship I was in about 5 years ago, where I was dating a guy that wanted to go further than I did sexually. And he kind of like, I guess it's the male version of henpecked me to death. Like he just was constantly trying to find out how far he could go and what could he touch and what, you know, and what would I, you know, and he was just coming at me with this attitude like, what can we do? You know, and it was just taking all the fun out of it. And at first I was attracted to him, but when he made me start verbalizing what he could and couldn't touch out loud, it's like it became real. Once I had to say to him, okay, anything that a bikini would cover, I don't want you to touch that. And until that moment, I really didn't feel that way. It was because if he had just been with me in the moment, I could have responded to anything that had happened, and I probably would have been open to more than what, once we made rules around it, it just ruined it for me. But anyway, what happened was, in the end, I ended up relenting instead of responding, and he could feel it, and I could feel it, and the whole relationship didn't go well. And a woman really has no choice but to move in her time. And I understand that the experience of life and relationship is completely different for a man than it is for a woman. But the whole reason around chivalry, the whole reason why, you know, your grandpa probably taught you to be a gentleman is because women really do have different battles. And it's really unbelievably hard to fight off a man that you want to be close to. You know, but you want to maintain your life, you want to maintain your standards, and it can be crushing. Our biggest fear as women is to be abandoned. So you might not really even like a guy, but let's just say he tries to have sex with you and it's too soon for you. And you say to him, I'm really attracted to you, but this is too soon for me. But I'd love to see you. I'd love to go out on a date with you sometime. And he's like, no, you know what? No, never mind. I mean, you know, if he gets harsh with you and he cuts you off and goes, you know, it's really just not that serious. I don't want it anyway, kind of thing. Or if you say, actually, I'm seeing somebody. And he's like, what's your man got to do with me? That kind of stuff. If somebody's just rude to you and cuts you off, for a woman, excommunication it's the worst punishment. And it can make you feel like you want to beg or pander after somebody or pine for somebody, even if you didn't really already like them. In fact, that's where the whole bad boy syndrome comes from. It's not even about you like people that treat you bad. it's about this innate fear of abandonment, and it's really deep and scary because women have a different experience of life than men do. For a woman, you could be dating a guy, you go camping, you go out on the town, you all these things you do, and then you break up, and now you're scared to go downtown alone because you don't want to get raped in a dark alley, and you're afraid to go camping because you don't want to get bitten by a snake, and there's nobody to help you put up the tent. I mean, your life changes in different ways. There's just the logistics of being smaller and less physically powerful. And also people tend to respect and listen to men. When you're upset and you don't have anybody behind you going, hey, don't talk to her like that. Life's just different when you don't have that strength. Women need that and love that. And that's what makes part of what makes her relationship so wonderful is that it's a solid place where she can let her hair down and be feminine and not try to be tough all the time. And it's okay for her to relax and let go a little bit. And there's somebody there to catch her. So anyway, when your own man becomes the thing that's making you fight and making you be so tough, there's a really big problem. It's very hard for a woman to ever feel safe enough to be sexual or to be, to speak her mind. I mean, if there's no freedom for a woman to be herself and move at her own pace, what you're going to come up with is just there's only a couple things she can do. She can either start faking it because she's moving faster than she wants to, but she doesn't want to estrange you or be abandoned. So she's going to start acting like, yeah, that's great. This is what I wanted. I wanted to move this fast. She's going to start having sex before she wants to. She's going to do a lot of uncomfortable things, and it's going to feel not right. It's going to be, the sex isn't going to be very juicy and passionate. It's just going to feel off. But I think women have basically even lost touch if they're faking it or not. I mean, I think for a lot of women, it's just gotten to where sex is just almost like post-traumatic stress disorder. Sex in and of itself can be scary because it represents so many fights. Anything could go wrong. You can't say, ouch, that hurts. You can't say that tickles. You can't say, could you do this or that? Because there's a lot of men that are so sensitive and to rejection that you literally just have to let them hurt you. And yes, it's that bad, and that's not uncommon at all. And I know a lot of women that have, experienced way less than mutual enjoyment in sex. And I think that if women had the freedom to feel we have the freedom to feel turned on, but we don't really have the freedom to feel turned off without losing somebody or estranging somebody. And this is just from a woman's point of view. I understand there's reasons why men do this and that they don't want to hurt us, but they have needs and all this kind of stuff. Well, we do too. We have a need to feel safe. We have a need to respond sexually and not be pressured to do more than we want to. And what I'm asking for from men is more patience. We need more time. We need to see little bits of what you're about and what it feels like to be treated reverently, to be treated kindly by you. So dates and conversations and walks and hand holding and all this stuff, we're seeing how it feels. And we're probably not going to say it, but when we leave our date, it's usually the next day or the next week that we start to think, man, he really makes me feel good. And it takes a little while to notice that you're responding to somebody. And so basically, if there's just a little more patience on the man's part to just be able to offer something like a date or a walk without any strings attached. It doesn't always have to lead to sex. And sometimes when a woman, if you can do that enough times and a woman gets the idea that our relationship isn't contingent on whether or not I have sex, she will have way more sex than the average woman. And so even a player would benefit from understanding how to get a woman's response instead of a woman's outward obligated, I guess you could say, she just relents. I mean, she relents and gives you what you want, but it's not coming from her heart, and she's not trying to trick you. She just has to do what she has to do to try to get the things she needs in life too. I mean, she needs you in her life, but she also needs to slow down and for herself and respond naturally. If men want a woman that can be herself, he's gonna have to let her be herself. And sometimes you can't believe somebody's yes unless they're allowed to say no too. And there has to be freedom to say no to sex. There has to be freedom to say I disagree with what you're saying. There has to be freedom to just not want to do things. I mean, there has to be that before a woman can actually want to do certain things. So basically, that's kind of what it's like inside of our world. It feels a lot like we get hysterically stuck on saying yes to everything, because to say no, or to, the same thing happens with our emotions. We have to be happy all the time, because if we're ever sad or angry, the same thing, we get abandoned, and we interpret that as punishment. And I've already talked about why men do that, why they exit, but it does feel like a punishment when it's your worst fear. And I've seen a lot of guys that do it just to get, what they want too. So anyway, it's not a good tactic to scare somebody into doing what you want. It needs to come from a place of response and not a place of obligation. So anyway, that's all I have for tonight, and I will see you tomorrow.